The tourism industry is one of the biggest sectors that we can benefit as an Africans. But the fact that the industry is not growing as it should have is a big sign that there's a lot of work to be done. And for that reason, AU and the African Tourism Board have come together to sign this agreement and make a measurable change on the African industry sector. So today in this episode, we will try to cover what the agreement is made between the AU and the African Tourism Board and its significance and many more topics. So it is my honor to invite you to stay with us until the end of this program. Follow me in.
For the department to be renamed Economic Development, Trade, Tourism, Industry, and the Minerals. So every day I see tourism and I say I have work to do. It will never be forgotten. Thank you.
We have worked long and hard with the ATB to birth this cooperation, and today we are really pleased to witness the signing of this MOU, which we believe will open more corridors of collaboration and coordination as we develop the tourism sector in Africa.
Now, I invite Hayati Assefa to deliver her remarks. The floor is yours, General Secretary of African Tourism Board.
It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this event and to extend to you my appreciation for taking time to be with us today. Your contribution to the society are invaluable, and your presence here today adds a special significance to our proceeding. Thank you. And we look forward to your continued support for the common good. Today, I'm here as a Secretary General who's representing the patron of ATB, the former Secretary General of UN WTO, Dr. Taleb Rafai. He can't be with us today because of health issues, but he sends his regards to all and his letter of appreciation. It will read as follows. It is always a pleasure to address dear Dr. Cuthbert, especially when he is in Addis, at the headquarters of the African Union. My dear friends, tourism has become today an extremely important activity. No wonder the African Union is signing this memo with the African Tourism Board. Today, tourism is not only a significant economic sector, it is also a wonderful peace builder. It brings everybody together and break down all barriers. One can never ever carry any feelings of resentment or stereotyping any nation after he has visited it, had lunch or dinner with somebody at the host country. Listen to their stories. It is people rubbing shoulders with people's. It's the best medium of break down all stereotypes and foster world peace. It's particularly important for Africa, where most of the people of the world today don't know Africa. It's important that when they come, they learn from us.
State Minister, Honorable Mr. Silesh Kiuma, and honorables from tourism authorities, especially the head of the Oromia Tourism Commission, Excellency ambassadors from the Africa Tourism Board who were privileged to have joined us in this iconic ceremony. My name is Frank Mugisha from Rwanda, Director General of the Rwanda Chamber of Tourism, but I also serve as the Chief Executive Officer of the East Africa Tourism Platform, which as we're working on making regional and continental markets work, we are having the East Africa Tourism Platform now, 7 countries which Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Burundi, South Sudan, Congo, and Rwanda, really try to inspire or play a role or share whatever little or huge to make all our other regional blocks get integrated. And lastly, I invite you to what we have. For the first time in Africa, I think you know, Rwanda is hosting the WTTC Summit. I was talking to the authorities concerned, not me, which is the Rwanda Development Board, the CEO, and all she's been pushing that let us make it an African event, that we showcase to the entire world what can Africa offer. Whatever the world writes about us, let's change the narrative by exposing or exhibiting what Africa can offer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Frank Mugisha, for those brilliant remarks. And now I invite Honor Haile Selassie, greatest of all times in athletics, great representative of all Africa, now, in the past, now, and forever. Excellency, you got the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, distinguished guest. I just, I don't prepare, to speak. To speak about, but one thing I want to mention, what's going on here, because it should be long time ago, this African Union and African Tourism Board to sign the memorandum of understanding thingy, because without African Union, there is no African Tourism Board, I believe, because we need to help each other. And besides that, my worry is just if this sign agreement, just to sign today and to forget tomorrow, it doesn't work like this way. But we need to implement, the things. As an African, we have to know something. What is that? You know what the Europeans and the Americans and the Asians think about Africa? Anything happen in Africa, anywhere in African country, it can be just West Africa, it can be East Africa, no matter what. They take us an African. That's why, as a tourist, we are missing a lot of things as a tourist. What is the most important part for the tourist? The most important part is peace and stability. If something wrong or happen in Sudan, for example, nowadays, they think, oh, the whole Africa is a mess, or the whole, you understand what I'm saying? Please, as an African Union, we need each other to give attention and to discuss and to solve the problems. It doesn't matter, maybe everything is related to tourists. When we talk about tourists, of course, people coming to Africa. Nowadays, as you know, North Africa and Southern Africa, you can see tourism very well over there. And some of those European countries, for example, I can mention, those Turkey and France, millions, 20 and plus million people going there. When we come to Africa, I can say, you cannot compare. I started the resort or hotel business like 15 years ago. What I thought out to build a facility, to give a best service. That was my plan, and I did this for the last 15 years. But now, what's happening? I don't see those Europeans, to come to my resort either, for meetings and conference. That's all. When I ask, oh, I know we wish not just to come to Ethiopia, and it's beautiful, wonderful, blah blah. And what happened to you? Sometimes they don't mention, what's happening here, and that's why, as an African Union, please give attention. What is the most important thing, for the tourism? Let's put, those number 1, number 2, number 3. Let's implement that, and then slowly we can do something. But we have to know also to win a race together. I know there is one winner. That is in athletics, not in tourism. Tourism has to be, just together. And please. Today, okay, now I'm here, to be an, I'm sitting here into, I can't say, as a witness or whatever, but I want to see. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, our minister here, and Lilisi is here. And really, when I'm sitting here in this chair, I think about Ethiopia. And I myself, I'm trying to build a hotel resort outside Addis, around Ethiopia, slowly, moving to, I come to your country, don't worry. And first, East Africa. But the problem, I always, when I think about, to build, resort and hotel in East Africa, I always ask myself, how is the country in the future? Are they stable? This is my first question. As an investor, as an people who's, just put their money, if they are not sure, not to be safe, do you think, they come for for relaxing or, because, their top priority is, their own life. If they think, just their life is under risk, they don't come. And please, thank you very much, Your Excellency, just to be here. And okay, now today I'm going to see you, just to sign this agreement, but follow the implementation. That's very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Haile Selassie, for these brilliant remarks. Now, Dr. Cuthbert Nkubi, President of the African Tourism Board, the floor is yours, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you, Program Director. Your Excellency, it is really a pleasure. We are so excited. I think it's my second time coming here in this memorable monument where decisions are crafted, decisions that should be positioning our continent. I have always disagreed that Africa is still trading behind in terms of development. I totally disagree that Africa is still trading behind in terms of civilization. As our former Secretary General, Dr. Taleb, has indicated in his message, that life and technology began in Africa. So the onus is up to us as Africans to reposition ourselves and to claim our space within the global community. But it must start within our continental domestic appreciation. We really appreciate His Excellency, Minister. We're so excited. But we still have to have a discussion. I was at the airport trying to get my visa, and they gave me a 1-month visa. But I was told that immediately when I fly back to South Africa, next week when coming, I need to reapply. Again, let's look on those areas that are really a challenge and a hindrance in terms of having a seamless exercise. Once again, it's an honor meeting with you. Commissioner, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and it's an honor to come and be part of this historical moment where we are cementing and affirming our relationship to say, how do we drive, by the way, the 2063 agendas of this great organization. We really appreciate, and the Deputy Commissioner, thank you so much, Dr. Haile. We really appreciate, and I think we can learn a lot from sports so that we pollinate and see how best we can actually implement that within the tourism space.
Wake up, Africa. I'll come back to my statement, to this issue in my statement. The area speakers made very elaborate salutations. I'm not going to repeat. I will say only that the Honorable Minister, we are very happy that he could come here, and all the distinct delegates who are here, the participants. And since I come from Southern Africa, and I lived in what was then Southern Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe, I can confidently say your name is pronounced Ncube. A lot of people have the problems in pronouncing your name. And I would like to reiterate the welcome message that was conveyed to each and every one of you from the Acting Director for Industry, Minerals, Entrepreneurship, and Tourism. Feel at home. The African Union headquarters is your headquarters. It's owned by the people of Africa. We are mere servants of the people of Africa, so you are at home. And this signing ceremony is very significant. It's very, very historical. And the key message attached to this instrument we are going to sign is implementation, implementation, implementation. So the ceremony is just one small part. The major part is to generate substantive results from our efforts, which are going to make the tourism sector contribute to improving the livelihood of the African people. And at the African Union Commission, we have an oversight mechanism. And that oversight board is called the Specialized Technical Committee on Tourism, Trade, Industry, and Minerals, Deputy IM. And work is underway to create a subcommittee on the tourism. So each time that subcommittee meets, it should get a status report on where we are in the implementation of this instrument. The Africa Tourism Board and other specialized agencies, in addition to the ministers responsible for tourism, are going to be invited to be members of the subcommittee. Many of you have declared the fact that there are so many bodies dealing with tourism. And some of them are calling themselves African Tourism Association. But they are based in New York, they are based in Munich, they are based in London. All they do is market Africa. And when they get the customers, put them on the plane. All the payments are made where the marketing is done. And when the visitors come to Africa, the hotel rooms and the food is already paid for. The only money which remains is if they want to tip a dancer. And if they want to buy some of the textiles created by Lex and the other stakeholders. But a greater part of the money does not come here. And hence, the fact that tourism in Africa accounts for only 3% of the global tourism receipts. To resolve this issue, what is on the table, which will come before ministers, is the idea to create an association of African tourism organizations and other bodies, so that all these, the so-called African tourism associations abroad, and the joining African Tourism Board and other specialized areas in tourism come under the overall authority of that association, what can be called a federation. The name we are going to decide on it. And that association should be controlled by Africans.
Everyone who are here to celebrate with us the signing of the plan we had a year ago, at this hall to add 2-3 more countries and to make sure that the African Tourism Board can be realized and make an official agreement with the African Union. So now we make it, and congratulations to you all. So looking into the African tourism, I want to make a reference on what the Commissioner has mentioned. In terms of potential, we have a very huge or enormous potential to grow in the sector. I would say looking into any form of tourism, be it cultural, historic, water-based, or forest expedition, or wildlife exploration, whatever, safari, Africa has the greatest potential ever to grow in tourism. But looking into the statistics, we received close to 5% of the tourist arrivals and only 3% of the receipt, like it was correctly mentioned by the Commissioner. So that shows us, potential is a burden. Unless we work very hard, we cannot grow. And if we look into, I know you are Economic Development Commissioner, but I look into agriculture, there are more competitions. If you look into industry, again, manufacturing of laptop computers or mobile phones or big screen like this one, video cameras are expensive for us. Because other countries have the technology, the learning curve advantage and so on. But in terms of tourism, we have the quickest possible potential to grow. It's just inviting the whole world to come and visit our beautiful place, our beautiful people, culture, history, and nature. So the only challenge we have is to learn from other international alliances, like from the EU. EU has invested a lot on infrastructure. They have invested a lot on ICT, and they have invested a lot on security. They have invested a lot on free movement of people, like the EU now has envisioned. So that will help us to quickly grow and exploit the opportunity from the tourism sector. So that's the area where we should work. We, as a government of Ethiopia, our Prime Minister, His Excellency Dr. Abiy, is now committed to support the tourism sector. In the past, the Ethiopian government has always been willing to develop the sector, but never been committed enough. So now we are committed. We are now, we have developed already 3-4 places in Addis Ababa, which is now the African Union diplomats and residents are now going there with their kids and family members to visit and enjoy the capital. We have now, on pipeline, 3 major tourism development projects, which is a public expenditure in the regions. We have now great athletes, investors, Ethiopian diasporas, who are now confidently invested in the tourism sector, establishing a 5-star or plus luxury resorts, lodges, and tourist facilities. So this is, commitment from both the government and the private sector. Our government has decided to make Ethiopia a more, easy place to enter for investment, like foreign direct investment. Now people who are interested to invest in tourism from 1 to 5-star lodges, it's available and free for foreign direct investors. People who are interested to invest in the tour operation, it's possible with a joint venture. People who are interested to invest in convention center, Ethiopia is open. So we are both, visa on arrival and visa online. So Ethiopia is going to be a good model for African countries opening its door more for African. If you see, the statistics, some 46% of African countries are closed for some 46% of other African countries. Unless they process visa, unless they pay for visa, they cannot access. But these 46% of the countries which are closing their door for African are 100% open for European and Americans. So this is where we lack, the collaboration and strong alliance. We now have started collaborating with the African region. We have signed agreement with Kenyans. We have started collaborating with Djiboutian. We have started communication with the Rwandan Development Board. We had 2 meetings on Zoom. we have signed an agreement with the South African tourism CEO recently, maybe 3 weeks back. So we are trying to collaborate. We are organizing events with the African Celebrates in here at AU. So working as a continent and collaborating between African countries are key. I was checking some of the literatures on tourism statistics, and I noticed that there are only 3-4 countries who are taking 90% of the African tourism. These are South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt. So they are receiving close to 10 million tourists every year. So we, as African, are receiving always below 60 million. So some 30-40 millions are going always into 4 countries. And other African countries are receiving much below, 1 million or 500,000.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I am here with the Chief Executive of African Tourism Board. Sir, welcome, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine, and my name is Cuthbert Ngube, the Executive Chair of the African Tourism Board. Okay. I'm so glad to be here. This is my motherland. That's where life began, originated.
Yes, and we're so happy for having us here today. Please say us what integrated tourism is and how it can help and benefit Africa.
Look, the reason why we are still perceived as a third world, it is because we are so much segmented as a continent. We are not united. Each member state does what they feel is best for their destination. So what we're saying as African Tourism Board is to say, how do we integrate our synergies? How do we work? How do we collaborate towards the one objective, to say, how do we position our beautiful continent? We have so much to offer. God has actually blessed this beautiful continent with so much in our diversity and also in our culture. So we need to be able to work together and pollinate from one another.
African Tourism Board has been working in different various aspects, and one of the basic vision and one of the basic goals is to value African stories. And what's the biggest project that you have been working on so far, and what kind of influence and what kind of impact does it have on African tourism sector?
We are so glad. We are not happy that we went through the challenges of the COVID-19, but as African Tourism Board, we are saying it was a turning point, a wake-up call for Africa. Exactly. To say, if the global community, international community have closed their borders, what do we do? Should we close, sit and wait for COVID to go? No. We started having discussions across the continent where Africa was then speaking with one voice to say, wow, how best can we start appreciating our domestic, our regional, our continental tourism so that we are able to visit one another? We are so excited, especially now that we are here at our mother body, the AU, to say, how do we cement our relationship? How do we also integrate our synergies and our efforts in driving tourism? I totally believe that tourism is the catalyst that will bring us together. Tourism is the catalyst that will assist us in actually recovering our diversity and also our economies. So it's paramount important as African Tourism Board to say, how do we come together as Africans? How do we speak with one voice? How do we reposition? How do we tell our narrative, our good story? We have so much to share, we have so much to explore, but it must start with us. Exactly. Domestically. Let's appreciate what we have. Imagine if each and every individual citizen of this beautiful continent could be a global ambassador to their destination. Wow. This is a powerhouse. I believe that the world is watching Africa. That's why when we talk in terms of investment, I mean the free continental free trade area, yes, that has actually been introduced and crafted here. Chinese are flocking to Africa. Guys from British, they are flocking in Africa. They have realized that there is a niche market. So we are saying, it must start with us. How do we create seamless exercises that will enable us to invest within Africa? The commissioner has decried the fact that these big conglomerate organizations, they are coming to Africa. That's where money is. That's where gold is. That's where diamond is. Oil is. They are coming to explore and exploit once again Africa. We are saying, it is time for us to unite and protect our legacy and appreciate that belongs to us.
Exactly.
My name is Frank Gisha, the Director General of the Rwanda Chamber of Tourism, a private sector institution in Rwanda, bringing together all tourism actors. You're talking about hoteliers, tour operators, tourism schools, travel agents, community-based tourism. Yes, and lovely having you, having you host me over here.
Thank you so much, sir. So Rwanda is a very beautiful country with a lot of destinations and a rich culture. So please mention or tell us what kind of works Rwanda is doing to accelerate the growth of the tourism.
Thank you. Rwanda has done something unique, if I would say, has really empowered the private sector. In Rwanda, we believe that policy does its excellent role to put the favorable business environment, which the government has played an incredible role through the Rwanda Development Board. Then comes in us who are the private sector players, where we always sit together to discuss matters pertaining the industry in terms of policy, in terms of creating business opportunities, but also identifying key issues that would really affect the tourism industry growth in an adverse way. And Rwanda has, in the first place, is one of the first African countries, if not actually number one, which put a streamlined free visa policy, where all nationalities from all over the world can receive visas upon arrival. Actually, for the Commonwealth and the French pays francophone countries, actually they can come to Rwanda like freely without any visa barriers. So that's something that really, if you're talking about connectivity, that's something really important. Good enough. Other African states have also now are taking that step. Thankful to the Ethiopian government, I could receive my visa upon arrival. Our colleagues from West Africa, like Benin, they also do the same for Africans, which is really great. But also security. Rwanda is one of the most safest countries in the world, of course. And, you know, travelers would value and really mind about their safety before traveling.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Hiwate Ambarper, and I'm a Secretary General for African Tourism Board. African Tourism Board is an association that comprises so many tourism professionals in different African countries who are joining hands and working together. Now, today, we are putting this landmark ceremony of signing an MOU between African Tourism Board and African Union. It is indeed a basement for our further collaboration and working for good, because nowadays we can't mention anything but tourism as a peace weapon to collect all African countries and bring us together to achieve for the greatest Africa. That is why we are putting this all effort to manage and now being successful on signing an agreement between African Tourism and African Union. The mother body African Union is achieving for us so many implementation strategies. We are collaborating into implementing the African Union 2063 agenda that brings Africa together and make great.
To the African audience, first for the African member state, African Union member states, Africa only receives just 30% of the global tourism receipt. We can do better by one, breaking the travel barriers amongst Africa. Two, revising our barriers in line with the investments we make regarding the tax policy or the infrastructure that promote tourism. We were looking at around 16 million jobs created in the sub-Saharan Africa by 2022. Of course, that was not reached because of the COVID-19. Now, if we are recovering at an average of closer to 90%, that means that synergies are key. Public and private sector is the way to go. Tourism is public sector led, but private sector driven. So let's join hands. Let's break the barriers as Africans. Yes. Let's keep working with to build those synergies, which will lead us to even establishing an effective economic integration. Otherwise, God bless Africa, God bless Ethiopia, God bless Rwanda and other African countries.
We are talking of 54 member states.
Exactly, yeah.
In our diversity, in culture, in mineral resources. Imagine when actually God made it deliberately to say, let me create a beautiful continent. It's like a garden of roses. You can see outside, you've got pink roses, you've got red roses, you've got white roses. That's what Africa is all about. In our diversity, when we come together and start appreciating what we have, we don't have to work in competition, but we need to work together in cohesion so that we lift. Africa has so much to offer. Africa is so much rich, but here we are. We are still, in poverty. It is because we are disunited. Unity, colleagues, that's the only way to go. And we appreciate once again the African Union, who have actually initiated some of these agenda items that needs to be achieved. So we need to work together. Public sector, private sector, it is time to join hands. Ministers, let's talk with one voice. Tourism board, let's join hands. Let's work towards a progressive Africa.
Africa is calling for the hands to stay together. We are the basement for them. We are showing them the first step to be unite each other and stay uncolonized. They are all seeing us as a way out to collaborate each other. Now they are looking at us. Now they need to work with the mother body of African Union. And we are bringing all these people who are desperate to work each other and develop African Tourism Board and African Tourism Development. So for that matter, we are requesting and asking all Africans and Ethiopians to welcome all Africans and work together. We are looking for such a big event going to be happening in Addis Ababa. The sooner or later we are going to announce it, and we are joining forces, hands together. So please be ready for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much.
Have a nice time. All right, everyone. This was the event that we have for you. Traveling is one of the major ways that we can use to identify and to discover ourselves, especially as an Africans. And I am sure that this agreement will have a huge impact on the tourism industry of Africa. And every one of you guys that is watching this episode at your home in different part of the world, I would love to say, especially for the Africans, let's take the initiative. Let's take the step to know our Africa, to travel through Africa. And this is what I have for you guys. I would love to congratulate everybody that have participated to make this agreement come true. And till I see you guys next time, I would really love to wish you a blessed and marvelous week. Goodbye.